Hi everyone. Today we're proud to present our work here in EMNLP. My name is LJ Miranda, and together with my co-authors, we built a large and comprehensive LLM benchmark for our native language Filipino. This is a step change towards improving the state of Philippine NLP. We call this benchmark FilBench, and in this presentation I'm very excited to talk about what we have accomplished. Before we start, I want to share more about the Philippines, where I was born and raised, and why is it interesting to study our native languages. First, the Philippines has a very rich linguistic landscape. We have around 130 to 195 languages throughout the region. Although Tagalog is the most dominant language, especially in the country's capital, which is Manila, you'd always find someone who knows how to speak regional languages like Cebuano, Kapampangan, or Ilocano. Even in my household, for example, my mom speaks a variant of Cebuano in Davao, while my dad speaks Batangueño, which is a Tagalog dialect. The Philippines is definitely ripe for studies in multilinguality. Furthermore, we have millions of speakers. This means that progress in multilingual NLP, especially now in the time of LLMs, can definitely impact a significant portion of our country. Another thing that makes Filipino NLP interesting is its distinctive grammatical structure compared to most Indo European languages that we use for training language models. To give you an example, in Tagalog, we have a symmetrical voice marking system, which does not privilege any specific voice. This is very much unlike languages that have accusative or ergative voice marking systems. So, as an example, all the sentences you see in the left can be written in a single English sentence. The woman put flowers on top of the table. Tagalog has a very rich voice construction system that allows us to express this sentence differently. In one paper by Aquino 2025, which we presented back in ACL this year, even well defined frameworks such as universal dependencies do not align well with languages like Tagalog. This is very exciting because we get to examine the long tail effects of language models trained in high resource languages to another language that is low resource. Finally, from a socio-technological perspective, Filipino NLP is interesting because Filipinos make up the majority of ChatGPT traffic according to a study published by the World Bank. Generative AI is very much ingrained in our daily lives, and this gave our group the urgency to understand how well these technologies truly cater to the Filipino experience. However, wider usage opens up threats of misuse. For example, in this 2025 report of OpenAI, they found that malicious actors harnessed language models to influence several stages of a political campaign, targeting audiences in the Philippines. Clearly, LLMs have become part of the Filipino experience for better or for worse. And it is then important to examine how well they adapt to the Filipino context. So, we've actually been evaluating NLP tasks on Philippine languages for quite some time. However, a large chunk of literature focuses on classical NLP tasks such as sentiment analysis and name entity recognition. Recently, there's still a lack of a decent language model evaluation framework for Philippine languages, and our work aims to fill that gap. Unfortunately, LLM evals for Filipino are still anecdotal. Sometimes you will scroll Facebook or Twitter and you will see someone posting a screenshot of their chat with an LM model, and then they will claim that a language model can already do something. In the examples below, we see an LM seemingly capable of speaking Ilonggo, or in some cases a gay speak register, or even arguing a politically biased claim. However, these are anecdotes. They're not tested systematically and might affect how we perceive actual LM performance. So if you want to build an evaluation suite for Filipino, it has to be comprehensive. It should evaluate LMs on a wide variety of tasks. It should cover not just Tagalog to ensure a better view of LM performance across PH languages. And it should align with evaluation practices in the field. It should follow best practices for modern LM evaluation. And given this, we built FilBench. FilBench is comprehensive. We evaluate language models on four major categories across 12 subtasks. These categories include cultural knowledge, classical NLP, reading comprehension, and generation. We arrive at these categories by conducting a comprehensive survey of the Philippine NLP landscape for the past 20 years. We collected all papers published in Star CL conferences and other journals relating to Philippine languages, authored by Filipino authors, and then we annotate their subfield. From this, we synthesized related subfields into four general categories of interest. This means that FilBench reflects the priorities of NLP research in the Philippines, making it useful for researchers evaluating LLMs on Filipino-centric tasks. FilBench also covers not just Tagalog. We include Cebuano, another language dominant in the Visayas region. In addition, we also differentiate Tagalog, which is widely spoken in Central Luzon, to Filipino in standardized form. In the future, we plan to incorporate all major Philippine languages to increase the breadth of FilBench. Finally, FilBench is not just an eval dataset, it is a modernized LLM evaluation suite. Our evaluation runner is built on top of Hugging Face's Light Eval, allowing evaluation using different inference engines such as VLLM. FilBench also has a dedicated leaderboard which tracks the progress of LLM performance in Filipino. This is really important. In order to facilitate more model evaluations on Philippine languages, we want onboarding on FilBench to be as smooth as possible. So we evaluated 20 plus models on FilBench, and in the next few slides, I'm going to share what we have learned. First, we find that C-specific models, that is, models that were post-trained with Southeast Asian C language data, are more parameter efficient than leading models. If you see in the graph on the left, C-specific models on orange are at the Pareto frontier of model performance. However, if we just account for absolute performance, then language models like Qwen 2.5 are still top performing. I think the biggest takeaway here is that the current C-specific efforts for training LMs are successful and are already useful for downstream LL applications, either for industry or for research. In relation to this, we also find that continuous fine-tuning, that is, performing supervised fine-tuning on an instruct model with language-specific data, is quite promising for Philippine languages. So in the chart on the left, we find that there is a significant increase in performance when performing SFT on various instruct models, from Llama to Gemma across different sizes. There's still a lot of adults here, like figuring out what type of SFT data should we use for language specific fine tuning. But in this case, we find that this route of adapting existing LMs to Filipino centric use cases is very promising. And I think it's something that we want to explore in the future. Third, if you remember, FilBench is comprised of four general categories. We find that language models tend to perform best on classical NLP, such as sentiment analysis and name entity recognition, but they are quite worse on generation, especially on translation. In our paper, we look into what causes these errors, and we find that most LMs struggle with instruction following or over generation, as in the case of translation. Finally, our work also revealed that open weight models can be more cost efficient than GPT-4. For example, Llama 4 is almost competitive to GPT-4o performance while being a magnitude cheaper. Again, imagine this x-axis is actually in the log scale. This shows that there is an opportunity to provide low-cost solutions on LLM applications while maintaining strong performance. So, those are the things that we learned from FilBench. There's so much more, and I invite you to check the paper to find out. So, with FilBench, we now have a comprehensive language model benchmark for Filipino-centric tasks. We also have some analysis of LM performance and a way to track their progress. In the next iteration of FilBench, we plan to add a smaller version of FilBench for quick eval turnaround and better coverage across all major languages in the Philippines. So again, this is LJ Miranda, and on behalf of my co-authors, we'd like to thank you for listening. You can learn more about FilBench by reading the paper or scanning the QR code you see on the screen below. We will be presenting our work at EMNLP, so drop by our poster this November. So again, thank you so much and enjoy your day.